Alright, so over on the NA version of the game, we just had a maintenance to release the final part, part 3 for Lost Belt 6, but a lot of players are absolutely flabbergasted because they have no idea where Oberon is. They're like, we had this maintenance, we're gonna get the final part of the Lost Belt, I'm gonna get Oberon, I'm gonna be able to nuke everybody into the ground, and then he's not here. And it's especially probably very confusing for some players when they looked at the JP version of this, where you got the same login bonus over here, right? You got the same golden apples that we're getting over here on the NA version of the game, but you also have these same exact missions. And so it's a little perplexing for some people, and they're like, hey man, where is the Oberon banner? And then, everybody obviously knows that Morgan's going to come out like about a week after Oberon's banner drops, but people are confused. So let me kind of explain what's actually going on here. So Oberon will probably release at maybe the longest a week from now, but what they want to do, because Oberon is a very spoiler heavy character, they want to give people a little bit of time to make sure that they can go through and actually finish part 3, or at least get to what I believe was chapter 29 for part 3. That is when I believe you get the true name reveal for Oberon, and I think they want to give people time to kind of get that far before they get spoiled on Oberon, right? Because the main spoiler for him, I don't think, is the fact that he's a pretender class servant. It's the actual true name reveal. That's when things really hit the fan. But even if you're one of these guys who's kind of known about Oberon for the last 2 years, you've known about the whole pretender class thing. Maybe you started looking into it. Maybe that's what got you over here on your boy's channel. Maybe you were like, hey, who's this new Oberon guy? What's up with the new pretender class? And then even if you do know his actual true name, you still got to kind of read the story to find out exactly what's going on. And so they just want to give people some time to make sure that they actually don't get spoiled too much by this Oberon reveal, right? Because you gotta remember that coming on to stuff like YouTube or doing your own research on the wiki, that's not exactly super normal for a lot of casual players to do. And I got reminded of this because I remembered that I also have my own friend who is very casual, not for FGO, but for Dokkan, the Candy Crush Dragon Ball game, that's the whole meme. But I remembered that he's a very casual player. Like, he doesn't watch anything on YouTube, he doesn't look into the wiki. If he has a question about maybe something that might be coming out in the future, he'll ask me about it. He'll be like, hey man, is there anything like Super Gas coming out? And I'll be like, not really, the next couple of months are pretty clear. And I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna go summon on this banner then, right? But that's about the extent of the research that he'll do. There's not a whole lot of actual like main casual players that are gonna be running around on YouTube trying to find out all the good stuff over here. Most people are just like, hey man, I like the Fate anime, I want to walk over here, summon some cool servants, or hey, I heard this mobile game is pretty popular, the designs are pretty cool, the story's pretty neat, I'm gonna start playing this game, right? That's kind of like the normal audience, right? And so you don't want to spoil it for those guys. Now, you could also maybe argue that it's been about 2 years, and it's very hard to go 2 years because of the massive, just chasm-wide gap between the NA version of the game and the JP version of the game. You can have a little bit of those casual players maybe crossing over and being like, okay, since like we're this far behind, can I actually see what's coming out, right? Maybe a couple of people got interested in it, but they still probably haven't actually spoiled themselves on Oberon. They might have seen some of the memes where it's like, oh, he's a little sussy guy and he's got a pretender class. Ooh, what does that mean? He's got a funny passive skill referring to Merlin, but aside from that, you're not actually spoiling the main meat and potatoes of what Oberon is. And I'm not going to spoil anything in this video because I also want people to experience it for themselves, right? The only thing that I'm kind of concerned about is not the fact that, oh, it's going to take a couple of days, because realistically, he could release tomorrow, right? They just want to give people some time to actually, get the guy and like, see his story. But the main concern for me is that I'm like, okay, if we're going to push it back to like a whole extra week, that's a little annoying because over on the NA version, we've missed out on, where is it? Yeah, this Nero Fest over here. We're probably still going to get it potentially, but pushing Oberon back by like a week instead of a couple of days like it was on JP, because if I'm remembering correctly, and don't quote me on this, I believe it was like 3 or 4 days after he released it, they actually put him out. Like after Lost Belt Part 3 released, then they put him out after they gave people a couple of days to kind of figure out what was going on and kind of complete some of the story, right? I don't remember it being this very long, drawn-out thing. In fact, I barely even remember that there was the login bonus thing going on with like all the apples. But with a lot of these, say, logins things that we have over here, where is it? Yeah, there it is. Like, we'll have events that'll do these little login bonuses, and the event will actually drop like halfway in to when like the pre-release campaign or something is going on. So That's kind of why I feel like we'll just have to wait a couple of days and not a full week. But if it is a full week, it's a bit annoying because then it pushes back us getting Nerofest over here, this really good lotto. It pushes that back even further, right? Because not only do we got to do the Oberon banner, but then we got to do the follow-up Morgan banner, and then potentially we'll get Nerofest before summer, which, fingers crossed. I would love to get Nerofest first because Lord knows, you know, my father in Tucson up there at Lasengle knows that I am in dire need of QP. If you have come out to any one of my streams, you have seen that I am just groveling on my hands and knees for this lotto, dude. I am running out of materials. I'm running out of EXP cards. I need to level up like a couple of extra servants I picked up. Dog, I need QP. Like, I need all this stuff, and then they're just pushing this back even further. I'm like, please, I need stuff to finish my servants. Like, it is an absolute struggle to get Koyanskaya right now. Like, I am crawling on my hands and knees trying to finish her last skill over here, and it is an absolute struggle to say the least. And I know I'm not the only one, right? I see, you know, comments in the Discord, I see some tweets every now and then, and I see a lot of people in my Twitch chat. And I don't think I've gone like maybe a single stream in the last 2 weeks without seeing people argue about when we're getting Nerofest, because we're all just completely sucked dry of all of our resources, right? Not only was there, you know, Morgan over here who was really popular, and then even if you didn't care about Morgan, there was Bargus and Sith, but then we had Castoria come back, which was an insane pickup. Then Melusine came out, who was an insane pickup for both Arts and Buster. She's like one of the few Buster servants, I believe, on release that can actually like really handle farming with Black Grail. Like, she's really good at handling Black Grail with Koyanskaya and Oberon. But speaking of her, she also comes out. Then you probably picked up another new servant off the GSSR, and then Oberon comes back around. And then if you missed Morgan the first time, she comes back around. So like, it's just this deluge of servants just coming in and just sucking up all of our resources. And especially if you're like me and you're like, all right, it's time to Grail Morgan to 120. I'm like, man, I don't got the EXP cards for this, bro. I could barely afford to give her a Grail to take her to 102, much less actually level her up. So, you know, long story short, should just be a couple of days, at most maybe a week, because it's very weird for them to drop a story chapter and not drop a banner. That's kind of like the standard thing, but I understand. This time, Oberon is a very heavy spoiler character. Now, in the future, they'll kind of rectify this. Like, when they drop, say, Talalok for Lost Belt 7, like, they kind of gatekeep a little bit of some of her ascensions and whatnot, and you don't get those till later. Or say Durga, who just released on JP, you can't actually ascend her until you get to a certain point in the story. So they do fix this later, right? There's this problem of like, oh, we don't want this spoiler servant to spoil the story. Like, we want them to kind of figure it out as they go along. So they're like, okay, we'll let them summon for the guy, but we won't let them take him to their third ascension. So they kind of fixed that. Oberon's a little bit of a weird case though, because he's introducing a new class. So it's really hard to like put Oberon in the game and people not be like, so what's up with this new class? Why am I summoning? What's a pretender? What's up with this? Like, I thought he was like an archer or a ruler or something else, you know. It's a little bit hard to hide, right? Because I don't know if they even have the programming like in game to just have him be a ruler until you take him to third ascension. I don't know if they can actually program that in there, because that would be really neat. If like first and second ascension he was a ruler, then third ascension, that's when he becomes a pretender. That would be cool, but don't worry, in the future this won't be as much of a problem. I know, again, a lot of people are like, where is Oberon, right? Like, give him to me, I want to nuke people. But don't worry, he's coming. Give it a couple of days. In fact, again, might actually release like the day after this video, and then I'll just look like a rip bozo, you know, but I'm fine with that. I'm just wanted to put this out here so people stop freaking out, and they're like, where is the guy I need to summon for him? It's like, dude, it's okay. Realistically, not a big deal as of right now. You know, if he's delayed a little bit, it just makes some of the later events a bit more annoying, because now we're kind of pushing Nerofest and stuff a little bit further away. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Maybe you're that one guy that's like, nope, they're not going to release him for like a month or something. If that's your take, then, you know, I'd love to see that in the comments down below. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.